And that was her job, to make the food addictive. She was a chemist, and they can put thousands of chemicals into your food without having to list them on the label. So there's all kinds of crap in there you don't realize is in there.
Paul, how did you find carnivore?
Well, Dave, it's been a long journey. I'm an old guy, so I started way back. My wife and I have been trying to get healthy and have that healthy lifestyle our whole life. I've been obese, not terribly obese. I've never been, in the 300s but I've always had a big pot belly. I've always been 250 to 280. We're always trying to find the latest, greatest diet craze to follow. And I go way back to a guy named Covert Bailey, who had a PBS special back in the day that said the name of it was Fit or Fat. And he convinced everybody that it was fat that made you fat, and you had to get fat out of your diet. So we eliminated all the fat. My wife would make brownies with applesauce instead of oil. So we're eating healthy brownies because there's no oil in it. But of course, that never worked. And I've gone through every documentary that's ever come out. We've watched and followed. Forks Over Knives. We want whole food, plant-based. Sick, Fat, Nearly Dead. The guy that juiced for 60 days. Oh, that's a great idea. So we juiced. We juiced for years. I have 4 different juicers: a fast juicer, a slow juicer, a wheatgrass juicer, and an extra juicer in case one of them break. I used to grow my own wheatgrass on the windowsill. I don't know if you've ever drank wheatgrass, but it's nasty. But we'd force it down with a glass of carrot juice. And that's not sustainable. That's the whole idea of the slow juicer. I could make a 3 days worth of juice and try to live on juice for a week. And that, again, not sustainable. And the whole time I've had a sugar addiction that I didn't realize I had a sugar addiction. I called it a sweet tooth. So, if it's a sweet tooth, it's not really an addiction. So I didn't realize how bad that addiction actually takes over your life. But as far as carnivore goes, I came across that a couple of years ago, at least, maybe 3 years ago, with Michaela Peterson and her story and her dad's story. I said, wow, that's interesting. But I thought she was just an anomaly, a fluke. She had a nasty, immune system that having her ankle replaced at 19 or whatever it was. So I didn't pay much attention to that. But I tried it, half-assed, kind of just maybe 60, 70% carnivore, and that's not sustainable. I came across Dante Ferrigno, his 125 days on lion diet, and that one really intrigued me. I said, wow, he feels great. He looks great. I really need to try this. So, but I didn't really have a great why. I wasn't morbidly obese. I wasn't on any kind of drugs or medications because I never go to a doctor. Therefore, I was never diagnosed with anything. Even though I could have been, I just never went to a doctor. So I tried that for a while. After I watched that, I tried to get into carnivore. And that failed miserably. So
why did that fail?
Well, it always comes back to the sugar. You can eat great, and if you're eating, half carnivore and half, junk, it's easy to go back to the junk because the sugar tastes great. The meat wasn't that terrific. I wasn't really a big meat person at the time because we had gotten meat out of our diet years ago because we always felt that meat was bad for you and all that stuff. So we tried to go with whole food, plant-based was what we thought was the greatest thing to do. So for years and years, I grew my own vegetables. And, of course, you're always throwing them away. They're in the refrigerator and you rot and you're throwing most of it away. And after you go off the diet, it's you give up on it. You go back to the pizzas and the subs and all that stuff and the pasta. So I was back and forth yo-yoing for years. And then I never found a good why. Everybody says you need the why. So At one point after Dante's video, and I failed on that, I kept looking, watched a bunch of different videos. I came across Bella and the Steak and Butter Gal and her videos, and Kelly Hogan. I watched tons of her videos, and all these people just having great success. I go, man, I got to try this again. So I joined the Steak and Butter Gal because they have a 30-day carnivore challenge. I said, oh, that's what I need, a 30-day challenge. I can do this for 30 days. So I joined the group, went to all the Zoom meetings, but I didn't get it. The first thing they want you to do when you start off is just pig out for weeks, 3 meals a day plus snacks. And I'm thinking, that's crazy. I'm not going to do that. I'm trying to lose weight here. And it just didn't seem like the right thing to do. And I hung in there for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, and I just gave up. I think I'm just wasting my time and money. This isn't going to work. And I never, through that whole 4 months, considered myself a carnivore because I was maybe 90%, and I never got there. So I quit and gave up again. And then the beginning, that was like the end of last year, 2022. And then the beginning of this year, I was in a bad spot. I had just lost my wife. I had just moved from Florida to North Carolina with part of the other family, and they kind of gave up here and went back to Florida. So now I'm stuck up here in North Carolina with just me and one of my granddaughters. And I was getting pretty depressed. I was drinking a lot. I just was not in a good spot. And I knew that I shouldn't be drinking. I can't have that kind of lifestyle at my age. I committed to a year. And then finally, in three weeks into that journey is when it finally hit me. Because when you go 100% carnivore, you run out of the glucose in your body. What I never realized is what the carnivore diet really does. What separates it from every other diet in the world is like taking your car that's running on gas and switching it to running on propane. You can do it, just need a few modifications, and it runs better on propane. But that's what you're doing with your body. When you're switching from standard American diet, eating the sugar and the glucose, that's what your body's running on. And when you take all that away, your body has to switch to run on fat. And once, like 3 weeks into that journey, it was like, boom, everything just cleared. All the cravings went away. I'm like, this is what everybody's, I always hear the food freedom. Like, I want to hit that food freedom someday. I never hit it until then. And then I'm like, wow, this is what everybody's been talking about. So I went back to the Steak and Butter gang and rejoined. And their program works great. And now I understand that first few weeks of priming, what it does is it fills you up with all those nutrients. You're never hungry. And because you're never hungry, I never fell off the wagon again. But once you get past that few weeks where you get fat adapted, they call it, it just changed everything. And then the first month, 30 pounds just fell off me. I'm like, wow, this is great. So I've been doing that since June. I think I went 100% carnivore on June 12th. And sorry, I got a little thing in my throat this morning. I don't know why. But so that first 30 days was just amazing. So I rejoined the group and jumped back into their program, which is really a 3 or 4 month program. It starts off with the feasting at the beginning, and then you get into fasting and more fasting and the healing, and it's terrific. So I couldn't say enough about them. That's a great group to be part of. But that's what got me into carnivore. It's been cruising right along until recently. I'm having a little struggle because my wife's birthday was last week, and Thanksgiving. Everyone came to my house on Thanksgiving. The whole family. I cooked up everything, and I didn't want my granddaughter to miss out on that Thanksgiving dinner. So I decided this year I'll make the dinner. I'll splurge. I'll cheat, whatever you call it. I'll have that meal. And then I'll go on a fast for 7 days. Well, that was a mistake. I made the meal. I made everything she wanted. I had the cranberry sauce and the apple pie. I ate half the apple pie, but then I threw it all away, got rid of all the leftovers, went on a 7-day fast. And then about 4 days into it, I gave up on the 7-day fast. And then I couldn't stop eating. The craving started coming back. I started drinking eggnog, and I had a candy bar, and I'm eating peanut butter out of the jar. And I'm like, what am I doing? But the good thing about this diet is, like every other diet, once you fall off the wagon, you're off. You know, you go back to your pizza and everything else, and it's months before you get back on. But this way of eating, it was easy to just, I know what's wrong. I just started eating steaks again for several days, and I'm back on track again. So that's where I am now. I'm down about 55 pounds from when I started. I'm under 200 pounds for the first time since junior high.
That concept that you learn in the steak and butter gang of the feasting at the start, that's kind of a really good strategy, I guess. I've never really thought about it, but when I think about your situation where you've kind of fallen off the wagon there at Thanksgiving, and then you know what to do. You just go back to feasting as much as you can until you've got the sugar out of your diet completely. That's a strategy, right?
Yeah, that's a strategy. And it works great. Yeah, you don't realize what a difference it is when you switch fuels. That's what I didn't get. First thing I didn't get was that I was a sugar addict. I called it a sweet tooth, but then I realized, you're a sugar addict. Just like I was an alcoholic, I was a cocaine addict, I was this addict. I've been through the whole thing. I'm an old guy, like I said. But yeah, once you know the trick, that's the way to do it. That feasting part is the whole key to the carnivore diet. People can't just try it for a few weeks. You have to commit to it 100%, and then your body switches fuels, and it's like a whole different life. I wish I had known this years ago. I could have had a much different life, but no.
Yeah. I mean, before we go further, let me just say I'm really sorry to hear about your wife, and it must have been tough, especially with her birthday just recently. So
yeah, we both got COVID back in 2021. And she was obese and old, as like I was, and we both ended up in the hospital, and I was the only one that made it out. But if we had found this way a long time ago, maybe that would have been different. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm very sorry to hear about. I mean, it's awesome that since June you've lost 55 pounds.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
Well, it comes off easy at the beginning. I guess as your body gets smaller and smaller, there's less and less to get rid of. So it's been slow. I've probably lost nothing the past month because of all the struggles I've gone through, but I feel back on track now, so I think I'll be doing fine.
Yeah, and so I mean, in that period of time, the June till now, you've lost the weight, but what other things have changed for you?
Well, I didn't have, like I said, I wasn't on any medication. In January, I went and had a physical. I hadn't had one of those in years. And my blood pressure was 200 over something. I'm like, oh my God. I'd never saw it anywhere near that high. I used to go to those little Higgy stations they have at the grocery stores where they'll check your weight and your blood pressure. And I was in the high 150s and stuff. But when I saw 200, I'm like, oh my God. And so that was one of the things. I had a lot of inflammation in my body. My hands were absolutely horrible. I couldn't make a fist at all. I could barely close it like this. They just killed me. And that all went away. All the stiffness in my body. To put my shoes on, I used to bend over and grab my pant leg and pick it up onto my knee and then put my shoes on. Now it's just like nothing, So a lot of stuff like that. The inflammation's great. But like I said, I never been on any medications. I just had my A1C checked in January too. It was almost 6. So I was pre-diabetic. That'll get checked again in January. We'll see where that's at. I'm sure it's gone down. I've never heard anybody say I'm on carnivore and my A1C went up. So I'm sure that's going to improve. But
yeah,
I just want to live out the rest of my years not crippled in pain like my parents and grandparents. I saw what they went through. My grandfather, he was on so many pills. you know, you could fill a wheelbarrow, you know, and he had a horrible, you know, end of his life, you know, couldn't just shuffle around. And, you know, I didn't want to be that guy. So I'd like to, you know, be much healthier the rest of my life and enjoy it.
Yeah. It's and that becomes more and more important, especially when you have had, like, you're talking about the where's my hand gone? Especially when you talk about the pain in your hands and stuff like that. You know, when you've experienced that and then that's gone, you suddenly realize, like, how good life can feel if you just do what gets rid of that pain.
Right. In fact, when I started, I kind of wrote down, let me see what I wrote down. I haven't looked at this since I started in June. What my blood pressure was an issue, pre-diabetic, the arthritis in my hands, obesity. I've got some skin issues. I was having, heart, I was having massive heart irregularities, palpitation, that all went away. Some cognitive issues I think have cleared up. And depression. Now the depression has been the last one that hasn't really lifted as much as I would hope, because everybody says how much their depression has cleared and gone. I'm still waiting for that, but I'm sure it'll come in time. I definitely feel better, no doubt about it. When you lose 50 pounds, you know, you have to feel better. You know, it's been a weight that I've tried to lose my whole life, and I never made it until now. So it's been life-changing. There's no doubt about it. I tell people about it all the time. You know, if I lost 20 pounds on Jenny Craig, I certainly wouldn't be talking to strangers about it. But this diet, I do. You know, if somebody mentions they're on diabetes or on medications, you know, you can fix that. So,
and what kind of reactions do you get to that?
Some people just tell me I'm a nut and don't even want to talk to them. I've got a friend of mine. He doesn't want to hear nothing about it, but his girlfriend does. So she's been in carnivore and she's doing great. So it depends on where they're at. If there's not an MD in front of your name or a DR in front of your name, whatever, he didn't want nothing to, you know, I'm going to listen to my doctors, not some YouTube guy. So I'm trying to get my brother to do it, but he's 10 years older than me. So he's almost 80. So, but he's fat and he could use it. So we'll see if he adopts it. That'd be nice. So, yeah, talking to anybody who will listen.
I think it's important to be talking, you know, even if you don't get much of a reception, just because you're busy planting seeds and you're leaving something to them that, you know, maybe they're just going to ignore it now, but in a year's time or something, when whatever they're doing is not working, they might go, okay, I'm just done with this. It's time to give this carnivore thing a try.
Right. And you can't argue with the results either. I posted my picture on Facebook in a suit that I hadn't worn since my wedding in 1983. And my friend's girlfriend saw it and showed him the picture, and he had no idea who this was. He finally figured it out, but he couldn't believe what I looked like. And he's the one that's skeptical about it. But I don't know, he'll come around eventually, I'm sure. And I'm still only partway through my journey. I still got a ways to go. I always thought if I get down to 200, boy, I'm going to be ripped. That's where I need to be. And I got down to 200 and it's like, I still got a ways to go. So, the chart says you should weigh between 160 and 155, whatever. I'm thinking, no way I'm never going to get down to that weight. But now I'm thinking, maybe I will get down to that weight. I look at all these other people. Old guy carnivore Mitch, he's 77 or 78. He's doing well. So all these people I watch, I've been watching everybody's videos, and I immerse myself in it. And you really have to at the beginning. It's tough to change your life after you've been doing things, the same way for years.
I think, I guess I'm kind of aligned with you on that. When I first started, this was all I was consuming. I went from watching my podcasts on, just to focusing 100% on carnivore stuff, carnivore content. And I think the thing is, is really helpful, because just that constant reinforcement keeps you motivated and keeps you going, okay, that's another person that's doing this and having success. I'm going to stay on this path.
I kind of lost my why along the way, and when I started and committed to it, I wanted to be on this documentary, but Kerry has found so many people with much more compelling stories than mine that I have, no delusion that I'll ever be on his documentary, because they're only, an hour and a half long. How many people can you stuff in there? So I lost it for a while, which is part of how I fell off the wagon a little bit at the end of November there. But just knowing what to do and eating the right things and getting right back on track, it was much easier than any other diet I've done. Usually, like I said, once you're off it, you're back to ordering the pizza. But not this time. I went and bought some steak and some nice ribeyes for a few weeks, and I'll be fine.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you fall off carnivore, you don't just feel it in your waist, you feel it everywhere, right? Because the pain starts to come back.
Instantly. My hand, instantly, I was like, oh my God, they were in pain for almost a week straight. Now I'm just getting back to where I can make a fist again, where last week I was like almost crying. It was so painful. So I'm stuck this way of eating for the rest of my life, I'm sure. So I don't want to go back. I can't. I mean, I can't even do anything, so I'm convinced that this is definitely the way to go.
It's kind of nice and self-reinforcing that way.
Right.
Like if you were on Weight Watchers and you stop Weight Watchers, the only thing you notice is the difference in size.
Right.
Yeah. Mm.
And none of those things, because you're always consuming carbs. So if you're any sugar addict at all, then you have to keep those carbs coming in, because that's what's feeding the monster. And then once you're off it, boy, it's like night and day. There's no I never crave a ribeye. I just eat when I'm hungry, but you don't crave it like you crave sugar, which is a good thing.
Yeah. So speaking of that, how are you eating? Do you have a set schedule, or do you just eat when you're hungry?
I eat when I'm hungry. If I'm hungry 3 times a day, I'll eat 3 times a day, as long as it's I keep food prepped. So if I'm out of steaks, because you can't eat steak every day, it's too expensive, but I keep, I'll buy 20 pounds of hamburger when it's on sale, and I'll make meatballs and hamburgers and throw them in the freezer. I'll cook bacon, throw that. So if I'm ever hungry and I'm desperate, I can just grab a meatball, in 10 minutes, I'm good. So that's how I eat now. When I was cruising along, I was pretty much 1 meal a day. I don't get hungry until, 2 in the afternoon-ish. So if I eat then it's usually just 1 meal a day. If I'm hungry in the morning and I eat a bunch of eggs and steaks, then I'll probably eat again in the afternoon. It'll be 2 meals a day. It's basically just 1 or 2 meals a day, which makes it very reasonable as far as price goes. It's a very affordable way of eating. I used to think it was going to be very expensive, but it's really not. It's actually cheaper, because you're not throwing away all those cucumbers that are no bit good. I remember
all those delicious cucumbers, no longer rotting in the fridge.
God, I used to do there was a celery juicing thing going on for a while. We drink tons of celery juice, and because of all the whatever's in the celery was supposed to fix everything. God, that was awful too. But none of them work. This is the only one that actually works. And the reason it works is because you're changing fuel. That's the biggest thing. You're switching from sugar to fat. And your body knows it, and it's just hums along, doing great. And it cures everything. My eyes are actually getting better. And I think my hair's growing back a little bit, but we'll see about that.
Oh, nice. So does this kind of feel like, now that you've discovered carnivore and you understand kind of how easy it is to stay on carnivore, does it feel to you like the dominoes are starting to fall into place about, well, of course this is the way we should be eating, of course this is the way we should live?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And if you listen to all the doctors are very Dr. Berry and Chafee, of course, all the documentaries make sense when you first listen to them and you try things. And you realize, you know, this isn't a lifetime sustainable way of eating. But you know, I was concerned about, you know, all the bad things they say about meat and all that stuff, and they've all been set to rest because, you know, you realize that mostly everything you're being told by the mainstream anything is a lie, and I know that now. I've known it for a while, but I didn't realize how bad the food industry was manipulated and how much crap they actually put in it that makes you addictive. I watched an interview with a lady that worked at a big food plant, and that was her job, to make the food addictive. She was a chemist, and they can put thousands of chemicals into your food without having to list them on the label. So there's all kinds of crap in there you don't realize is in there. And
that's really scary because the nutrition labels are already so long, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I read them all too. I know what I'm taking. I know what I'm eating. And, but I didn't realize how much stuff is not on that label that's actually in the food.
Oh, that's really scary. And, you know, just thinking about that, it reminds me that I actually should be counting my blessings a lot more than I do, that I found this when I did. Because, you know, if you don't find a diet like this, it really is just, you're on a path to destruction.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I was going down that hill, you know, I was going to live out the rest of my life miserable. I could tell, you know, the arthritis and how bad I was really feeling physically. You know, when I got over COVID, I thought I was going to die. I mean, it took me a year to get over that COVID. I had the long COVID or whatever they call it. That was tough. And it was, you know, I'm glad I found this way of eating it to turn my whole life around, to be honest with you.
So, if someone's watching this and they're thinking, you know, yeah, sure, I want some of that weight loss, I want some of that mental clarity, you know, I've got sore joints, I want to get rid of this. How would you recommend they start?
Fasting, not fasting, feasting.
Mm.
That first few weeks, if you're switching from what you're eating to the carnivore diet, you got to realize that you're switching fuel, and you have to get that fat adapted. And you do that by just eating carnivore stuff 100% for a few weeks. It took me 3 weeks. I can almost remember it. Just everything just cleared up. It was like, wow, I could care less about sugar. I didn't want that candy bar. And that's what makes all the difference. And then after that, you just go into cruise control. And I was doing fine until I tried to fast too much. And when I fasted at the end of November, I ran out of fuel. And that's what happened. I was out of glucose and I'm out of fat. And my body started craving things. And it started kicking in all those old addictions that, you know, sent me down the wrong road. And but you can snap right out of it just by re-priming. Take 2 or 3 days. Eat nothing but steaks and meatballs and hamburgers and eggs, and it all goes away again. You're right back on track. It's pretty easy. So that's what I'd recommend. Eat.
Yeah. Eat. That's great advice.
Even though you don't want to eat because you're trying to lose weight, that's how you do it. You have to switch over fuels. And once you switch over, it's like night and day.
Do you have an Instagram or a YouTube or anything like that people can contact you on?
I don't. Maybe I do have an Instagram. I must have set one up, but I don't really know it. I don't use it. I did set up a YouTube channel. It's called Elm City Carnivore, but I've never posted anything. I set it up because that's one of the things Carrie wanted you to do is, you know, post videos on your progress and stuff. And I couldn't figure out how to do it. I did a video on my phone, couldn't figure out how to get it from my phone to my computer or onto YouTube. So I found out on my computer that I have QuickTime. So I did a video on my computer, and I couldn't figure out how to get that onto YouTube. So I gave up on that. Maybe I'll post this one on YouTube with my first post. But no, I don't have any social media.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, Paul, and sharing your journey with us. I really happy you're doing so well.
Me too. I'm glad you're doing this because it's important for older people to realize that it's not too late. Even though you feel like crap and you're on all these medications, this fixes everything. Get you off all your medications. And once you're off all the medications, everything you take has a side effect, and it's never good. So once you're off all that stuff, I'm sure a lot of people can feel a lot better just by, choosing this way of eating. I would recommend it to anybody who has any ailments. You got nothing to lose. And if I'm right, then you'll be off all your medications. You won't have diabetes anymore. I mean, that's a big thing. If you can get off, if you're a type 2 diabetic and you can get off your insulin, that's huge. So hopefully more people will do this. Get your own chickens. That's what I do. I got my own.
You got your own chickens?
Yeah. Spitting out 6 eggs a day. So
nice.
So that's good. Endless supply of chickens. I mean, eggs.
Awesome. So next up, have you considered buying half a cow or something like that everyone else is doing lately?
Funny you mentioned that. I have thought of that because I know Dante does it. He buys a cow at a time. But I have gone to the local farmers markets here, and there's 3 regenerative farmers here, and I've bought meat from them, and I've been very disappointed. I don't like the taste. I don't like it's been chewy, and I've had some difficulty. And all the local grocery stores I haven't been real fond of. We have one here in North Carolina called Harris Teeter, and their meat is great. And every week they have something on sale, either ribeyes, New York strips, or porterhouses and T-bones. So that's how I eat. I'll go in and see what's on sale this week. So I'm either eating ribeyes this week, New York strips next week, or porterhouses. The dogs love it on porterhouse week because they get the bones. But so that's it's half price. So I'm getting ribeyes for $8.99 a pound. So how do you beat that? The local farmers and all the places that you can order it from, it's very expensive. The grass-fed, grass-finished, all that stuff. You're paying, $18-20 a pound. And I just don't find that sustainable. But this Harris Teeter thing has worked out great. That's where I get all my meat.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on, Paul. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry I don't have a big, long story of how I was on all these ailments and I lost 500 pounds like some of these other people, but I'm glad I wasn't, actually. I'm glad I wasn't on all these medications, but it's really changed my life. I got to be honest with you. It's been a great journey.
So, I mean, let me just say, one of the important things and one of the reasons I, put a call out for anyone that's been on this to come and do an interview is because, I want, a broad cross section of people coming on, not just someone who, was 600 pounds, lost 450 pounds and cured every ailment under the sun and got rid of all their medications. Because if it's just that kind of person, those stories are great. But if it's just that kind of person, then anyone watching is just like, yeah, but that's not going to work for me.
Right.
The same as the person who becomes superhuman after doing Weight Watchers or something, everyone looks at it and goes, yeah, it's not going to work for me. But just people who have got, a normal story like you or I or, anyone is what's important, because it makes it relatable for everyone. So I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I'm just an old average guy. Been fat my whole life. My gym teacher called me Fat Clock. That was his nickname for me.
Oh.
So I grew up with that stigma my whole life, and I've always had the big belly that my dad had. And I said, I'm never going to do that. But there I was. I look at all my old pictures, and there I am with that big belly, and it's gone.